Have you ever stopped to wonder, what would the world look like today if the French Revolution never happened? A question that might seem simple, yet it holds profound implications, considering the pivotal role the French Revolution played in shaping our world. This transformative period, marked by radical political and societal change, has left an indelible mark on history. So what happened during those turbulent times, and how did it shape the world we live in today? Well, buckle up as we take a journey back in time to the tumultuous period of the French Revolution. The French Revolution, a radical period of societal and political upheaval, began in 1789. It was a time of turmoil and change, a time when the people of France decided they had had enough of the old regime and its oppressive ways. Let's delve into the roots of this revolution. The immediate cause was a severe financial crisis. France's economy was in shambles. The government was deep in debt, largely due to its involvement in the American War of Independence and its extravagant spending. The people were burdened with heavy taxes, while the nobility and the clergy enjoyed numerous privileges and exemptions. This disparity fueled resentment among the common people. In an attempt to address the financial crisis, King Louis XVI convened the Estates General in May 1789. This assembly had not been called for nearly 2 centuries. It was composed of representatives from the 3 estates of French society: the clergy, the nobility, and the common people, also known as the Third Estate. However, the Third Estate, which represented around 95% of the population, only had the same voting power as the other 2 estates combined, leading to feelings of injustice and discontent. When the king rejected their demand for more representation, the Third Estate declared itself the National Assembly, vowing to draft a constitution that would limit the king's powers. The tension reached a boiling point on July 14, 1789, with the storming of the Bastille. The Bastille, a state prison, symbolized the absolute power and corruption of the monarchy. The common people, now turned revolutionaries, stormed the Bastille, marking a pivotal moment in the French Revolution. The fall of the Bastille served as a wake-up call to the monarchy and the privileged classes, signaling that the people were ready to fight for their rights and liberties. The storming of the Bastille marked the beginning of a revolution that would forever change France and the world. In the wake of the Bastille's fall, the revolution took a dark turn, entering what is now known as the Reign of Terror. A chilling chill runs down the spine as we delve into this dark chapter of French history, a time when the high ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity gave way to a period of extreme violence and bloodshed. Maximilien Robespierre, a charismatic lawyer and politician, rose to prominence during this time. He was a man of the Enlightenment, a believer in the rights of man, yet his name would become synonymous with the terror. Guided by his radical political ideology, Robespierre sought to purge France of its enemies and protect the newly established republic from internal threats. To enforce his revolutionary ideals, Robespierre presided over the Committee of Public Safety, a de facto governing body that wielded enormous power. This committee, under the pretense of protecting the republic, initiated a campaign of public executions targeting those perceived as enemies of the revolution. And then, there was the guillotine. The guillotine, a symbol of equality and death, became the instrument of mass execution during the Reign of Terror. Its blade fell on the necks of thousands, from nobles and clergy to commoners accused of counter-revolutionary activities. The streets of Paris ran red with blood, and the air was filled with the grim specter of death. Fear and paranoia gripped the nation. Neighbor turned on neighbor, and friends and family members could become enemies overnight. Suspicion was enough to earn one a date with the guillotine. This was a time when the revolution devoured its children, a time of revolutionary fervor turned into revolutionary terror. Yet as swiftly as the Reign of Terror began, it came to an end. Robespierre, the architect of the terror, himself fell victim to the very machine of death he had set in motion. His execution marked the end of the Reign of Terror, a period that had seen around 17,000 official death sentences. The Reign of Terror ended with the downfall of Robespierre, but the revolution was far from over. The scars it left on the French nation and its people were deep and lasting, shaping the course of history in ways no one could have foreseen. The power vacuum left by Robespierre's demise paved the way for a new leader, a man named Napoleon Bonaparte. A military man at heart, Napoleon seized control during a period of instability in the French government and was quickly able to consolidate power. He was a man of ambition, a man who believed in his destiny to lead and reshape France. Napoleon's rise to power was meteoric. He was crowned emperor in 1804, less than 5 years after Robespierre's execution. His coronation was a message to the world. France was no longer a republic but an empire, with him at its helm. But Napoleon was not just a conqueror, he was a reformer. He established the Napoleonic Code, a civil law code that granted equality to all men and abolished feudalism. He centralized the government, modernized the economy, and expanded education. His reforms were so impactful that they still shape French society and other parts of the world today. However, Napoleon's ambitions were not confined to France. He embarked on a series of military campaigns known as the Napoleonic Wars, with the aim of expanding French influence across Europe. These wars were marked by brilliant military strategies and costly victories, but they also led to his downfall. Despite his military genius, Napoleon's dream of a French-dominated Europe was not to be. His disastrous invasion of Russia in 1812 marked the beginning of the end. His army was decimated, and his invincibility shattered. In 1814, Napoleon was exiled to the island of Elba, but his indomitable spirit saw him return to power for a brief period known as the 100 Days. However, it was short-lived. His defeat at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815 led to his final exile on the remote island of St. Helena. Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo in 1815 marked the end of the French Revolution and began a new era in European history. The French Revolution, though marked by violence and upheaval, left an indelible mark on the world. This transformative event had far-reaching consequences that continue to echo in our modern societies. Let's delve into the long-term effects of this pivotal period. The French Revolution ignited the spark of nationalism. The concept of a nation defined by its citizens rather than a monarch or a ruling elite was a revolutionary idea. This notion fueled the rise of nationalism, not just in France, but across Europe and the world. People began to identify themselves based on common language, culture, and history, which eventually led to the formation of modern nation-states. Another significant impact was the spread of democratic ideals. The clarion call of the revolution, liberty, equality, fraternity, resonated far beyond France's borders. The idea that power should reside with the people was a radical departure from the existing monarchical rule. This new political philosophy formed the bedrock of many democratic governments that would emerge in the centuries to follow. Secularism, the separation of church and state, is another enduring legacy of the French Revolution. The revolutionaries sought to diminish the influence of the Catholic Church, which was seen as an ally of the monarchy. This led to the rise of secular societies where religious institutions no longer held sway over governmental affairs. The revolution also marked the end of absolute monarchy in France. Louis XVI's execution symbolized the fall of an age-old system where kings and queens held unchallenged power. The French Revolution replaced this with a system where power was shared among the people. This shift dramatically altered the political landscape of France and served as a warning to other monarchies around the world. In essence, the French Revolution was a catalyst for monumental changes. It reshaped political ideologies, inspired the rise of nationalism, and fostered the growth of democracy and secularism. The French Revolution, a decade-long period of turmoil, forever changed the course of history. So, we've taken a whirlwind tour through the French Revolution from the storming of the Bastille to the fall of Napoleon. This was a time of immense societal and political upheaval. It began with the people's cry for justice, for a fairer society where the burden of taxation didn't fall solely on the poorest. This cry echoed through the streets of Paris, culminating in the audacious storming of the Bastille, a symbol of royal tyranny. But the revolution was not just a fight against an unjust monarchy, it was a struggle for the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity, ideals that continue to resonate today. Yet, these ideals were stained by the Reign of Terror, a dark period marked by the guillotine's gruesome shadow. Then came Napoleon, the charismatic general who seized power and declared himself emperor. His rule brought stability but also autocracy, and his thirst for conquest led to his downfall. The revolution had come full circle. The impact of the French Revolution, however, extended far beyond France's borders. It reshaped the political landscape of Europe and inspired movements for democracy and human rights around the world. It showed that people could rise against tyranny and demand change. The French Revolution was not just a period in history, it was a testament of human will and spirit, a testament that echoes in our world today. Next time when you ponder over the world's political landscape, remember the impact of the French Revolution. Have you ever stopped to think about how one man could shape the course of history? Today, we delve into the life of such a man, Napoleon Bonaparte, who was born in the rugged island of Corsica in 1769. At a young age, Napoleon's keen mind and unyielding spirit began to shine through. His parents, recognizing his potential, sent him to mainland France for formal education. It was here that he developed an interest in military strategy, a passion that would come to define his life. The late 1700s were a time of great upheaval in France. The French Revolution had begun, and the monarchy was abolished. Amidst this chaos, Napoleon emerged as a beacon of hope. His military prowess during the siege of Toulon quickly propelled him up the ranks, and he soon found himself in control of the French army in Italy. His victories there etched his name into the annals of history. But Napoleon was not just a military leader, he was a visionary who saw beyond the battlefield. In 1799 he played a pivotal role in establishing the French consulate. This marked a significant turning point in French history, as it effectively ended the French Revolution and paved the way for Napoleon's rise to ultimate power. However, Napoleon was not content with just being a military leader or a political figurehead. He yearned for more. He craved power, not just over France but over all of Europe. He wanted to reshape the world in his image, to create a new order where he was the supreme ruler. So Napoleon, once an outsider, had now become the de facto ruler of France. But his ambitions didn't stop at French borders. This was merely the dawn of an era where Napoleon Bonaparte would strive to become the master of all he surveyed. How does a man turn a revolution into an empire? Let's delve into the era of Napoleon Bonaparte, the French emperor who ruled with an iron fist from 1804 to 1814. Napoleon's reign was marked by relentless military campaigns across Europe. His genius in warfare was undeniable. With his grand army he swept across the continent, toppling old regimes and reshaping borders. From the sun-baked plains of Spain to the icy steppes of Russia, the echo of Napoleon's drums of war could be heard. His victories were not just about power, but about spreading the ideals of the French Revolution: liberty, equality, fraternity, ideals that he believed could light the path to a new Europe. But Napoleon was not just a warrior, he was a lawmaker too. Under his rule, the Napoleonic Code was established, a legal system that abolished feudal privileges and set the standard for civil law in many parts of the world. It was a testament to his belief in merit over birthright, a cornerstone of his rule. Napoleon's vision extended beyond military conquest and legal reform, however. He sought to create a unified Europe under French control, a grand empire where the French language and culture would be dominant. He introduced the metric system, established efficient bureaucracies, and initiated economic reforms. In essence, he was redrawing the map of Europe, not just physically but also culturally and administratively. But for all his victories, Napoleon was a polarizing figure. His ambition to unify Europe under French rule was met with resistance. Many Europeans were wary of his sweeping changes and guarded their national identities fiercely. The seeds of discontent were sown, and these would eventually grow into a force that would challenge Napoleon's rule. Unsurprisingly, not everyone welcomed Napoleon's vision of a unified Europe. This resistance set the stage for the downfall of Napoleon. What happens when ambition meets resistance? Well, for the indomitable Napoleon Bonaparte, the answer came in the harsh winter of 1812. With his grandiose ambition, Napoleon launched an invasion of Russia. However, the Russian campaign proved to be a catastrophic miscalculation. The brutal Russian winter, coupled with scorched earth tactics used by the Russians, made it a disastrous endeavor. Napoleon's Grande Armée, once the terror of Europe, was decimated. This marked the beginning of the end for Napoleon's reign. His aura of invincibility was shattered. The coalition of European powers, sensing weakness, began to close in. France's dominance over Europe started to crumble like a house of cards. By 1814, the relentless pressure from the coalition forces led Napoleon to abdicate his throne. A man once revered as a conqueror, Napoleon found himself stripped of his power and glory. But where does one exile a man of such stature? The coalition found its answer in the island of Elba, located in the Mediterranean Sea off the coast of Italy. Elba was a far cry from the grandeur of the French court. Napoleon, the man who once held Europe in his grasp, was now confined to a small island. Yet even in the face of such adversity, Napoleon's spirit remained unyielding. He was given sovereignty over Elba, and in true Napoleon fashion, he quickly set about reforming the island, introducing legal and social reforms, building roads, and even drafting a small army. This period of Napoleon's life serves as a testament to his resilience. From the heights of power to the depths of defeat and exile, Napoleon weathered the storm. His downfall serves as a stark reminder of the transient nature of power and the consequences of unchecked ambition. But Napoleon, ever the strategist, wasn't done just yet. His spirit remained unbroken. His story was far from over, and the world would soon witness the extraordinary determination of this extraordinary man. Can a fallen emperor rise again? Let's delve into that riveting chapter of history, the 100 Days and Waterloo. In the winter of 1815, Napoleon Bonaparte, the once mighty emperor of France, made a daring escape from the island of Elba, where he had been exiled. Awaiting him on mainland France was a loyal army, and a nation weary of the monarchy that had been restored in his absence. Napoleon's return was triumphant, a phoenix rising from the ashes. The 100 Days had begun, a brief period of resurgence when Napoleon once again held the reins of power. Yet, the coalition of European powers that had forced his abdication had not been idle. The stage was set for a decisive battle, one that would forever be etched in the annals of history: Waterloo. On June 18, 1815, Napoleon's army clashed with the British and Prussian forces. The day was long and the fighting fierce. Napoleon, the seasoned warrior, employed his full tactical genius, but the odds were not in his favor. Waterloo proved to be Napoleon's swan song. The British, under the Duke of Wellington, and the Prussians, led by Field Marshal Gebhard von Blücher, emerged victorious. The battle was a cataclysmic end to Napoleon's rule. He was once again forced to abdicate, this time to be exiled to the remote island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic, where he would spend the last 6 years of his life. The 100 Days and the Battle of Waterloo were the final acts in the dramatic saga of Napoleon Bonaparte's rule. The fallen emperor had risen, if only for a fleeting moment, before being irrevocably vanquished. Yet, as we'll see, this was not the end. Waterloo marked the end of Napoleon's reign, but not the end of his story. How does one man's story impact the world? This question takes us to the final chapter of Napoleon's saga. After the Battle of Waterloo, Napoleon was exiled for the second time, this time to St. Helena, a remote island in the South Atlantic. It was here in 1821 that Napoleon Bonaparte, the man who had once held the reins of Europe in his hands, passed away, far from the grandeur and glory of his past. But the legacy of Napoleon extends far beyond his life and death. He left an indelible mark on French society and law, transforming a country torn apart by the Revolution into a state with systems and institutions that, in many ways, still persist today. The Napoleonic Code, or the Civil Code for instance, revolutionized French law, establishing principles such as the equality of all citizens before the law and the freedom of religion, principles that are now taken for granted in many parts of the world. But Napoleon's influence was not limited to France. His conquests and the wars he waged changed the face of Europe, redrawing borders, dethroning monarchs, and spreading revolutionary ideals. His actions set in motion a series of events that would shape European history and geopolitics for centuries to come. The Congress of Vienna, held in the wake of his defeat, sought to restore the balance of power in Europe, a balance that would be maintained until the outbreak of the First World War, nearly a century later. Napoleon's era was one of turmoil and transformation, a testament to the power of one man's ambition. It remains a fascinating chapter in our shared history. The man, the emperor, the conqueror, Napoleon Bonaparte, may have been laid to rest on a remote island, but his legacy continues to ripple through the annals of history, shaping our world in ways that we continue to grapple with today. This is the Truth Chronicles, signing off.